Hey, what's going on, good people? It's Gardner Douglas, your Oyster Ninja. I'm here with Miss Kristine Kainer. Um, she is just an awesome artist. I found her page on Instagram, I think maybe a year or two ago, maybe longer than that. And I was like, wow, because I saw oyster art. Now, she doesn't just do oyster art, but that's what we're here to talk about, and the rest of our art. Hey, what's going on, Kristine?
Hi, Gardner. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to finally virtually meet you.
Exactly.
So just tell us just a little bit about who you are.
I am the daughter of an officer in the Marine Corps.
Cool.
Grew up on the Eastern Seaboard, from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, to Brunswick Naval Air Station in Maine. We moved every couple years and along the Atlantic coast, and so I was always around seafood. I consider Virginia my home. My dad retired when I was at the end of high school, so I graduated in Virginia. From high school, went to William and Mary, got my master's degree, all in Virginia. So Virginia's my home, but now I am just north of Austin, Texas.
Wow, that's great. So is that kind of where where does the seafood love come from, or oyster love?
Again, just hugging the Eastern Seaboard where we lived. My parents were always having shellfish constantly. We had lots of shrimp growing up. Then they would always get lobsters and clams, occasionally oysters. Those were considered special treats. And my brother and I just grew up watching them devour these things and making us devour them too, for money sometimes. And I really started falling in love with it. When I lived in Northern Virginia, we had access to some great seafood markets in the DC area. And so when I had my own home and family, we'd go there on the weekend and stock up and cook all weekend long and have feasts.
Wow.
And when we came out to Texas, I realized, even though I was near the Gulf, that it's all about cattle out here.
Right.
So I got a little, I started missing my seafood, my shellfish. And I think that's being shown in my art.
No doubt about that. Some awesome art. That's an awesome
you.
story. Wow. So, like, let's say you're a little girl, and your parents they just devoured a bushel of oysters, or whatever, a dozen of oysters. So, are you doodling oyster shells back then also, or how did your art life start?
Actually, no. I always just like to draw. I was really good at drawing the Flintstones, so I'd make up my own Flintstones books, and with bad things happening to them, and a little warped. And but we also we'd go to the beach often, and I would collect my little seashells and just stick them in drawers, which I still have drawers and drawers full of shells. And when I was a math teacher, I got my master's and became a seventh grade math teacher in Nova, Northern Virginia. And to illustrate some concepts, I would do drawings on the chalkboard, and my students kept saying, "Gee, Mrs. Kainer, you should be an artist." And I was like, no, I'm fine, Gee, Mrs. Kainer. And they kept telling me I should be an artist. And when we moved to Texas, Texas does not have reciprocity for teaching certifications. Wow. They did not care that I graduated from William and Mary, that I had a master's degree, that I had a 10-year track record as a math teacher. They wanted me to go back to school, and I was just like, no. So I thought, well, why don't I become an artist? So I started teaching myself through some art magazines, and here I am.
So you taught yourself through some art magazines. There is hope for me. There's hope.
Yes. I mean, it did help that I knew how to draw.
Right.
But I started with watercolors, then I went to acrylics, and I worked my way up to the more expensive oils, and I haven't looked back.
Nice. So, wow, I didn't see you just dropped the bomb right there. I don't know if you used to like more expensive oils. I didn't know it was anything, I thought oil was an oil was an oil.
It's got the longevity, just the fact that it's a historical commonality with artwork, having oil paints, and acrylics are relatively new. They started probably in the 1950s. They were developed, so because they're more of a plasticine kind of paint and pigment. So which is wonderful. They're wonderful to work with, but I wanted to be like the masters. And oils tend to have a little bit more clout still. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do this as a living, I want to get more bang for my buck.
No doubt, right. I can definitely understand that. Mm-hmm. So is it a particular, like, I don't want to go for your secrets or anything, but like, is there a particular brand or anything that you kind of favor?
I use Utrecht oils, which are actually handmade in Brooklyn. Oh, so, wow. Yeah, and which is near and dear to me. My parents are from the Bronx, and my family's all in the various boroughs of New York City. So I just love the fact that it's made in the USA, and it's one of the boroughs. So I think that's pretty cool.
So I know you do the oyster shells like really, really great.
Thank you.
So like, how do I put this? And I looked at some of your other art also. You had like the just things around the house. I saw a fork that looked amazing. I was like, what the world? It's just a fork. So like, are oysters like your go-to, or do you just whatever's on the brain?
Whatever's on my brain, but I keep coming back to oysters and actually eggs. Oysters and eggs.
Yeah, I saw a nice egg also. Yeah.
Yeah, they fascinate me. But I've done baseballs. I've done a guy who collects tops in France bought 2 of my paintings of childhood tops that had belonged to my husband. Whatever's in front of me, I'll paint it if it sparks some interest in my brain. But I keep coming back to oysters. I like to tell people I like to paint then eat my models. So oysters have turned out to be a very good combination for my painting and my culinary interests.
Right. So do you eat a lot of oysters? I know you said you had a lot of shells. Like, how do you find inspiration, I guess? I mean, and every shell is different, so.
It is. Before all this nightmare started with COVID, we'd occasionally go to seafood restaurants, and anytime they had oysters on the menu, oysters on the half shell, I would order those. I never really started worrying about provenance until more recently, but I'd order the shells and I'd stuff them in my purse and take them home. To the chagrin of my husband and daughter, as I'm shoveling shells into my purse. And I would just paint them. But now I've discovered that you can order oysters online. And so I watched YouTube videos and I learned how to shuck. And bought myself a knife, and I've been ordering whenever I get a little extra cash. I'll order oysters. Right now from the East Coast, I've ordered from places in Virginia, Maryland, Massachusetts, Maine, and right now I'm also working hopefully with an oyster grower in Connecticut to do some artwork for him. So hopefully I'll be getting some of those too.
Right, no doubt.
And my neighbors are pretty jealous. They see the UPS guy or FedEx guy come with big boxes of oysters, and they're all mine.
Right.
And then I sit there, I eat them, and I look for the pretty shells, and the ones that I like, I take, and the rest of the ones that I don't will get recycled.
Okay, well, that's good. What I was going to ask you is, so like, how has just being in this atmosphere that we are in right now of COVID-19 coronavirus, have more people found you because it's more downtime or social media time, or how has this affected business, or has it?
It's been devastating, quite honestly. Yeah, it's been devastating for many of us in this field. there are so many more things to worry about with what's going on in the world. Art is a luxury, and it's been tough. It's been tough. The hope is that we will all get through this, come together, and move on. But hopefully it's given me some time to really reflect on what's important to me, and it's been difficult. Let's put it that way.
Right.
But
Can I ask a personal question though?
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, this is just more than oysters. It's really to get to know you and the things that you feel and you go through and all of that. So, as a person, what has this made you reflect on? Just like, because I know I'll just speak for myself. I'll put myself out there. It took me for something like this to realize that I need to spend more time at home, because I was always shucking. I was always doing something. I was at this event, that event. But I was like, wow, I'm gone a lot of time, and it's just my wife home with the kids. So just as far as you, like, how has this, what has this done for you?
It's actually made me want to go out more when it's safe to do so. It's made me realize that I've had a lot, since I work at home in my studio, it's made me realize I need to get out more once it's safe to do so, and really start exploring the world around me and get out of my little shell.
Right, no doubt, I like that.
I normally this would not have fazed me at all, because this is the kind of lifestyle that I have for the most part. Mm-hmm. But now I realize time is short, and we need to really value what we have been given. And so I want to go visit every oyster farm I'm allowed to. I want to really experience the world as it is, and so I'm antsy to get going, but I'll wait till it's the right time to do so.
Right. So what does your news feed look like, far as like Instagram? Because for me, as a Oyster Shocker podcaster, it's a lot of people, a lot of oysters I'm flipping through, or people in the industry. What does it look like for artists, in general?
As far as just what's coming in,
who do you follow on social media?
I follow a lot of other artists for the most part. I follow artists and a lot of oyster farmers. Mm-hmm. I love seeing what other people are doing. I love seeing what artists who actually live at the beach are creating. Nice. I'm living vicariously through them right now while I'm hunkered down in the Austin area. I just love I learn from them. And some have been very generous in sharing their knowledge. If I have questions about how they're doing specific techniques, I think a lot of us have really gotten closer in that we're trying to share our work with each other and learn from each other. There are a few who don't, but right. I think I'm making some lovely friendships from a distance.
Nice.
And we all have a common goal, and it's our love of art. It's the love of our surroundings, and it's been just a unique experience. Finally getting involved with social media, which when I first started this, I was not at all. So now I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, Twitter occasionally. I'm here. My daughter keeps telling me about TikTok. I don't really know if that's for me or not. I've got to do some exploring, and right. The next thing I want to start doing, I'm watching some of my artist friends do live paintings and little art shows with their work, and so that's something I want to segue into as well, and start really utilizing the technology that we have available, which I think has gone from leaps and bounds ahead of itself with COVID. I think where we are right now probably would not have happened for another few years still, but it's been all just in a small period of time. It's really come together with online schooling So I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. And that's the same thing, you know, with the oyster farmers. Like a bunch of the guys are now, you know, doing the online sales who had no intentions on, you know, doing online sales or shipping. And now to keep the business going, you know, they got to do what they got to do.
And it's opened up some more avenues for me, because now I'm seeing more and more oyster farmers able to ship, whether they wanted to initially or not. And so now I can have access to the things that they are growing, which was, again, a luxury for me, you know, a couple years ago. But the times are changing, and we're all on the cusp of this.
So, you know how writers have writer block? Does an artist have artist block?
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay.
I can tell you right now, when COVID started, I did not touch a paintbrush for a couple of months. I was so depressed, maybe not clinically so, but just very, very unmotivated, very frightened. And I go through periods every year where I don't want to touch a brush. I need to back off. But it seems like when I start up again, the creative juices flow so much. It's almost like I'm starting to develop another style. And it's almost like I've been spending my time really analyzing it in my head. And then when I finally get it to the canvas, it's like, whoa, it's been so long. I thought this would be difficult. And it actually seems easier. So sometimes these breaks, whether forced or self-enforced, they work out well for me.
I'm gonna tell you, like I kind of got lost in your words for 1 second, only because the picture. No, you're good, and you're a great artist, because this picture over your shoulder is so daggone captivating. It's like the depth in the oyster shell, and like I can just imagine like the little piece of meat on it where they duck the muscle, and it's like, you know, that's why I really do love your art.
Thank you. Well, again, every shell that you see, I ate what was in it, and I enjoyed every morsel.
No doubt. So, besides taking a break, how do you promote creativity and, you know, just to, I guess, differentiate from your other works?
Golly, I did you rephrase that?
How do you, like when you're having a block, or how easy is it for you? I mean, I know you're painting a oyster shell or your baseball or whatever you're painting. Like how do you just get in the mood to paint again? Or I mean, or is it just natural?
It's just natural for me, at least.
Okay.
Again, normally I'm here alone. My husband's been working from home, and my daughter was sent home from college. She goes to college up in New York. So they've been kind of underfoot, but it's been a godsend too. But
Right.
When I'm alone, I get lost in my own little world, and it just flows. I might have on a cooking channel on TV or play some music, and whatever has caught my interest, it's just a joy to try to put it and to capture it onto a canvas, whether it's an oyster or an egg or a puppy.
Right.
I do pet portraits too.
Okay. Now, do you do people? I didn't see any people on your site or anything.
I do not. I've drawn people before, but I never think I capture them the way they want to be captured. It's like when I look at a photo of myself, I say, that's not me. And I don't want to spend a lot of time doing a painting of somebody and then having to say, oh, that's not me, I'm not paying for it. So I steer clear, but I'll do puppies, horses, cats, parrots, whatever. And that's just it's a change of scenery for me. A little break to do those. I usually do those around Christmas. Those make great gifts for people. But then I'm right back at the food, and the shells and beachy stuff.
So how would you give anybody advice on like how to find their niche? How, because how would you give somebody advice on finding their niche?
In the art world?
Yes.
I actually think I'm finding it through feedback from my social media.
Okay.
Again, I was doing everything under the sun, and now I seem to be focusing more on, like I said, the oysters, the shellfish, coastal type work, because it's where my heart is. It's what I grew up learning and knowing. And that seems to be getting the most response from people. I think it's actually showing in either my work or my words that this is part of me. And I think that anyone who's an artist who's doing everything under the sun like I was, they really need to follow their heart. And feedback definitely can provide some guidance. But I think it is whoever you are, that is your niche at that point.
Right.
And the goal is to hopefully be back there on the beach and having my own clam bakes and really living the life again that I left behind.
So I got a weird question again. I got a lot of weird questions.
That's fine. I have a lot too.
So, man, this is a scenario. Let's say you're at an art gallery, right? And the person doesn't know who you are, and he's standing there or she's standing there looking at your work. What do you think that he's thinking, or what are they saying out loud? What do you want somebody to say and think, I guess?
I would love it if they would say, wrap it up. But I love when they do ask, where did I get the inspiration? Because then I can tell them a little bit about my background, a little bit of my story. Why do I have a giant oyster shell in Austin?
Right.
That doesn't make sense to most people. They're expecting prickly pears and horses and cattle. And so I think once I start telling that story, a lot of times they start saying, oh yeah, I went there on my honeymoon, or oh, I grew up in such and such, and we'll start finding a common bond. And I think that's where you start making these connections. Whether they take the painting and go home with it is another story, but they become more interested in not only my art, but other people's art once they start associating a piece with some kind of a story. And
nice.
So that's what I'm really starting to enjoy, because I tend to hang out in the shadows. And so it's nice to have someone ask me a question like that to help draw me out. And I think we both benefit from that.
Nice. So where can the good folks find your work at?
Around the world. I have sold all over the world. I even have a map with pins in it where all my art is.
Nice.
I have a website. It's a secure website, KristineKainer.com. And that's, Kristine with a K, KristineKainer.com. I'm also on Instagram at KristineKainer.com. Kristine Kainer, sorry. Facebook, Kristine Kainer Art. And I'm in a local gallery here in the Georgetown, Texas area called the Framers Gallery. And but basically it's word of mouth, and it's my social media. And most of my sales don't happen here. They happen on the West and East Coasts, the Gulf, and around the world. So, you're not limited by your location. I can be anywhere you want my art to be.
I do. So I was reading on your website, you do some art with your hands. Like, is this with brush or hands, or like?
I finger paint.
Right, no doubt.
I don't know how much of this you can see, and not most of this is finger painting.
Wow. Okay.
And most of it's finger painting. I'll draw like the outlines of what I want, and then I'll start doing some basic layout of color. And then the fingers get dirty. I use these two fingers.
Get the heck out of here.
I'll paint and smear, and then I'll go back and do detail work. So yeah, it's controlled finger painting. It's not just for children.
No doubt. Wow. Now, see, I was thinking just like certain pictures or paintings out, but okay. All right.
Yeah. Oh no, all my paintings, if you look carefully, you'll probably find a fingerprint here and there. So
nice.
That's literally putting my touch on the work.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you for hanging out with me for this time, and nice meeting you finally. And
it's been a pleasure meeting you finally, Gardner. It's like I said, we've been following each other for a while, and I live vicariously through your photographs. I mean, I'm constantly drooling.
No doubt. Maybe that could be well, we'll talk offline, but that could be kind of cool. And you know what? That brings back to one more question that I wanted to ask. I forgot. So like, do a lot of, I know you were saying you was working with a company out of Connecticut, I think, but do like a lot of oyster farms or, farmers reach out to you, say, hey, can you paint my oysters?
Not yet. That is the hope.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that could be a thing.
Yeah, I that is the hope. I mean, some people have gotten to these, such as some of the farmers first because they live in the area. But yeah, I am now starting to keep track of where my shells come from, so I can pick up. I mean, I have shells all over the place, just everywhere.
Right.
And I mean, they're everywhere. And like I said, I'm starting to keep track of them. And I think as I start naming these, I might start using some of the names or areas where these come from. And who knows? Maybe someone will like that.
I think that's
nothing else. It's just showing that, hey, I support you because I bought your oysters and I ate them and enjoyed them.
For sure, yeah. Man, see, now the ball in my head is rolling. That's good. That's great. All right, appreciate you again. I'm going to have all your information in the description, and hopefully we have some people to reach out to you to say, hey, I want some art. I want you to paint my oysters and all of that good stuff.
That would be awesome. But if nothing else, just keep, sending them to Texas, and I will keep supporting you as best I can.
Right. No doubt. That's awesome. All right. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Yes, indeed. All right. And I'll see you on Instagram.
Thank you so much, Gardner.
All right. Be safe.
You too. Thank you.
Let me see. I really don't know what I'm doing.